Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today, we have one more set of great revenge stories. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story. I got fired and went after the boss's money, his hotel, and his marriage. Back when I was still in university, I used to work for a hotel to make ends meet. When I started, the hotel very urgently needed new personnel, so I cut a deal with the old owner about getting to choose and pick shifts, so I could visit my courses and exams. Speaking some extra foreign languages, I also got a little bonus each month on top. The old owner was a great guy. He owned multiple hotels, so I rarely saw him, but when he was in the house, he always made a point to have drinks with the staff, chat with us, and if we were free, he even invited those at the front desk to fancy restaurants who were not on shift. Fast forward. I'd worked at the hotel for a few years and was now nearing the completion of my studies, so it wouldn't have been an eternity until I had to quit anyway, as I was of course more interested to work in my field of study. As part of my deal with the old owner, I mostly chose to work night shifts, allowing me to visit my courses at university during the day. To make up for my privileges, I'd picked up the habit of doing some extra work in the dead of night other shifts would normally have to do, when I, on contrast, could have sat around and stared at the walls. People were grateful for the help in the beginning, and we became a rather tight-knit group. But over time, people rotated in and out. When the old owner retired and his a-hole of a son took over the business as the new owner, I already feared the worst. The new owner didn't like me very much. I never found out the exact reason for that one. I was at that point nearly the sole veteran left from when I started. Among the tasks I'd taken on was doing light clerical tasks to ease the manager's job in the morning. For that, I generally had to use the manager's network account. One night, while doing my lists, I logged onto the manager's account and emailed to do my job. Then I saw an email with my name in the subject line. I know it's not nice to snoop, but of course I read it. Turns out the new owner wanted to get rid of me. I still had my old employee contract with the bonuses for foreign language abilities and was allowed by my contract to pick and choose shifts. I can only assume these privileges are what made the new owner hate me. No idea if he had other reasons, because to be honest, these seem very weak to me. But he couldn't fire me without cause. On top of that, I would be owed severance if fired, and generally there were not enough bodies in the shift rotation without me. Though the new owner didn't seem to understand that point as the emails told me, I looked for more email concerning me and found them. There was an email chain between some of the employees, the manager, and the new owner. I was of course not CC'd as I was the hated topic. The employees didn't like me hogging the night shifts because those paid better, and for every night you worked, you got paid the night bonus. The manager was the only one rather neutral on the matter and just curbed their enthusiasm to get rid of me. As they needed to be fully staffed, the new owner and my colleagues actively conspired to make a hostile work environment so I'd quit of my own volition. I was furious. I thought about a variety of reactions, from egging their cars to burning down the hotel, but I settled on a less crazy method of revenge. I called my uncle at 2 a.m. asking for advice. My uncle is a lawyer, so for sake of proof, I forwarded myself all the emails, made photos, printed them out, made copies, and filmed the whole deal just to be sure. My uncle told me to sit tight and see if things got worse, or if it was just bluster. So I gave it a few days, and things did take a turn. Snide remarks about my looks, clothing, and so on were only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the colleagues were just as professional as before, but the conspirators always left extra work for me or pawned off crap duties they normally had to do on me. I always kept a spare shirt and suit at work just to have a change, which suddenly disappeared. One guy even started to threaten me with violence, but I kept clenching my butt cheeks. I would not give them the satisfaction of saving on the severance or giving in. I'm a big boy after all. I did, however, stop doing any extra work I was not obligated to do, which in the end was the reason they used to fire me. They still had to pay me severance. The next day, my uncle, with bundled proof of the email and all documented harassment by my colleagues, served the hotel my lawsuit. It started with wrongful termination and ended with harassment. Reportedly, the manager went white as a sheet when he realized where the emails must have come from. The new owner had been on vacation and had to cancel his expensive vacation in France to deal with this. Their counsel advised them to settle. So I accepted my severance and a hefty bonus on top, enough money to last me until the end of university without work. But that was not all of my revenge. I had gone after the new owner's money, but in the next step, I went after the hotel. I'd used all the spare time during the night shifts alone to document every last violation of city, county, district, state, and federal law I could find. That went from minor things like some harmless mold under the kitchen sink to substantial violations like modifications to the building. The building was under a limited form of historical protection by federal law on the grounds of being built and inhabited by somewhat important historical figures a few hundred years back. So every renovation or change in floor plans needs to be signed off on by a committee, which can take ages. There's also a grant paid to the new owner by the government for keeping the building intact as is. So with my uncle's help, I sent documentation of every violation I could find to the corresponding agency. In 1 month, everything from health, building code, fire safety to the finance and work police crawled over the hotel. In the end, it was the building and fire inspectors that shut the place down. The new owner had done substantial renovations to the top floor luxury apartments, which he used when he was in town. So the new owner had to pay back the grant, pay fines for unauthorized alterations to the building, endangering his guests because something wasn't built right according to fire code, and had to close down shop until the building was fixed. I also tipped off a friend who'd studied journalism and worked at a local paper. The paper ran an article on all the violations accumulated, which tanked the business once it had reopened, as the newspaper article had led to horrible reviews. In the end, to afford all the fines, repayments, and building costs, the new owner sold the hotel. As a cherry on top, all the a-holes who tried to harass me out lost their job. Granted, the people who didn't do anything to me lost their jobs too, but didn't do anything to stand up for me or help me either. So I don't feel too much remorse. All the best stories start with, I have a blank family member who's a lawyer. That's when you know crap's really about to get intense. And our next story. Still selling books? No, had to stop. This revenge story is 2 years in the making and is long, so my apologies. 2 years ago, I started a distance PhD program. My very first full semester in the program consisted of an intro course, which is basically, welcome back to school, here's how to do research. Here's how to do APA citations. A lot of it focused on proper APA writing, and one of the first assignments was just doing a simple abstract. Okay, I can do that. I pull out my trusty APA guide, which I just bought online, and complete the assignment and get a D-. I was completely shocked. I'd followed the book to the letter. How the hell did I get a D-? I messaged my professor and told her I followed the book exactly, and she did the academic equivalent of patting me on the head and saying, "Of course you did, dear." By this time, I was thinking I was out of my mind. I sent a strongly worded letter to the APA that basically said, "What the hell is wrong with you guys selling a book like this?" They wrote back and did the business equivalent of patting me on the head and saying, "We're sorry you don't like our book." Then I started really looking at the book and started noticing a lot of typos. Eventually, everything clicked and I realized, holy crap, these are OCR, optical character recognition errors. This is a scanned and reprinted counterfeit textbook. So I took a bunch of pictures of the errors and did what any good internet user would do, scribble on them in MS Paint with red arrows, put snarky captions on them, and upload them. My first thought was, wow, this poor seller got taken advantage of by whoever printed their books. In retrospect, this was probably stupidly naive, but that seems to be a common theme in my life. So I wrote them a very polite email and sent them the photos of the book and said, "I think you might have been provided a pirated version of the book." Well, the seller didn't appreciate that and wrote me back a super nasty email saying that my suggestion that they were selling counterfeits was very offensive. All their books were brand new from the publishers, and that I was a B and they were going to report to the police for slander. Okay, I was pretty upset about the crappy grade, but you wrote me back and swore at me and threatened to report me to the police? Yeah, now I'm PO'd. I start by looking up their Amazon seller profile and notice a couple other people have reported that books received from this seller were missing pages or had other unusual issues. This is the part where I went full internet stalker. I searched for their company name and found it was a registered LLC. I got the address from their state's listing of small business registrations, which turned out to be a fairly nice-looking house per Google Maps, then looked up property tax records on the house to get the owner's name. I found the owner on Facebook and found they had a business website listed under a completely different name that they'd shared all over their Facebook timeline. And their website was pretty blatant about the whole thing. We offer you deeply discounted prices by having books printed on demand. I don't think that's how publishing works. I reported them to Amazon and Abe Books and Biblio and eBay. Basically anywhere I could find them selling anything at all, I reported them. I wrote to the APA and apologized for my terse email and sent them copies of the photos of the book along with all of the seller's personal information. They respond and say they're going to send it to their legal folks and ask if it's okay if they contact me for more info. Finally, I report them to the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center. Today, I happened upon my old APA manual and started wondering what happened to them. So I dug up the emails and the info and went looking. They no longer have seller profiles on any of the sites. Their website's been taken over by a domain reseller. The house appears to have been sold last year, which may not be related, but I like to think it is. And the owner's Facebook page lists them as now working at a place that turns out to be a payday lender. I dug through their timeline and found someone asking in October of last year if they were still selling books and them replying with, "No, had to stop. Also, my professor raised my grade to a B+. And you would never have done any of this if they just said, "Thanks, we'll investigate." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.